Welcome to the Performance Enhancing Podcast. It's like steroids for your brain. A podcast for people looking to live life at their peak potential, chock full of real-world tools and knowledge that you can apply in your life today. By providing you with a lens into the lives, beliefs, practices, and actions of those who are already living extraordinary lives, the Performance Enhancing Podcast will help you shift your mindset or create that change in your daily rituals and habits so you can explode with success in the areas of life that are most important to you. So get ready for another dose of Performance Enhancing Podcast with SatoriPrime. Here's your host, Ilan Ferdman.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Performance Enhancing Podcast with your host, Ilan Ferdman. And here we are, part 2 of my interview with Jordan Gray. So if you didn't listen to part 1, then you missed a really raw and uncut version of Jordan. He even told me afterwards that he was sharing things on there that he never really thought he'd ever share like that on a podcast. In part 2, interestingly enough, we go into a couple of very unique conversations, all kind of geared around how it looks like to unmask yourself, right? It's really scary to unmask yourself, and yet it's really the secret to attracting the most amazing people in your life, the most amazing opportunities in your life. So we really delve into that, what it looks like and what it takes to unmask yourself. And if you don't know what that means, then this podcast will be very interesting for you. We also look at what is real love. And should you ever get back together with someone that you broke up with? And then a couple of other points we look at is one of the scariest moments in my relationship and one of the things that was very personal to me, a very personal story here. And then finally, how to face the things you fear the most. So if you know that fear is something that has been inhibiting you, then this is going to be a very interesting perspective. So with that, enjoy part 2 of my interview with Jordan Gray.
How PG do I have to be on this podcast?
Say it again.
How PG do I have to be on this podcast?
Oh, you can be as rated R as you can possibly be. You can be rated X if you want.
Okay, so during the breakup, one of us had, I won't say which for incriminating reasons, one of us had a fairly intense psychedelic trip. And I think that for me and my partner, there's this kind of feeling of, dialoguing with your higher self, your intuition or your gut or whatever you want to label it as, that is always there, no matter how much you try and, because our brains can, doubt our way in or out of everything, but there's always that gut level knowing underneath all of it. It's like, yeah, that's really cute that you're trying to convince yourself out, but there's feeling still there and you can't ignore it.
Yeah.
And yeah, during that trip, weekend away in the forest, there's this just very obvious feeling of like, there's no reason for you to be apart. This is just fear speaking. You both know on a deep level that, you came together in such a crazy serendipitous way. This was always meant to be a thing. And yes, you're not talking right now, but that's going to change really quickly. And within 2 days from then, we came together and we're like, what are we doing? Like, wow. I'm freaking out. And she, like I said earlier in the episode, she was just the most compassionate, understanding person ever. She's like, I could feel you suffering through the entire thing. Like, I don't blame you in the slightest. And, there was no hurt feelings because she could always feel that we were still the exact same people together.
Did you ever figure out what you were really scared of and what you were running away from?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I'm like, I dive into my thoughts and emotions probably more than anything that I do my entire life. About 8 years ago, I had a breakup that I was broken up with by someone who was the first person I ever really, let see me. And they hit this precipice where, and they told me years later, so I have a better understanding of this, that the day they broke up with me, they were like, I hit this moment where I was either going to fall irreparably so in love with you and like wanted to marry you that day because you were so everything I'd ever looked for and wanted and needed, or I had, or I could listen to fear. And so I'd do whatever necessary to push you away super hard. And she basically, like, it was intense. Like for half an hour, she basically like read me a laundry list of all the things that she found wrong and shameful and disgusting and off about me. There were all the things that she knew were the things that I was the most insecure about, that I'd earned my love for over 20 years of living. So she's like, she's very intelligent, and I don't hold it against her in the slightest, because again, like most people, she was winging it and she was acting from a place of fear. She didn't actually think these are the things that are wrong with you. She just did the thing that she knew would make me disconnect from her emotionally the most.
Yeah.
And so for me, like in the 4 or 5 years following that, I did anything possible to put on a really convincing mask, or to be someone that didn't emotionally connect with anyone. I dated and this is maybe also an early 20s thing for a lot of people, but I was very emotionally shut off to anyone that I dated. And so it was here's someone like the mama bird, the baby bird thing. Here's someone that can really, that can let past the armor and have them see me and have them emotionally connect. And, for me, that trigger is, okay, but before you really let them in, either heavily vet them so you can trust, or I really had to take baby steps towards actually being seen by someone that had, my best interest at heart.
Wow. So that you kind of got up against that wall, that door opened again.
Yeah, the ego freak out was like just throwing a shit fit, and like, okay, before this happens, do whatever you can to evade it. And
wow,
just kind of sitting with that feeling. And I've told her a couple times over last week. It feels like being in a relationship with her since the beginning has felt like meditating in the middle of a bonfire, and the fire only burns away everything that I'm not. Like all the layers, all the baggage, all the bullshit, all the mask and armor and things that I've put on to not be seen. She's like, lovingly and patiently letting that melt away.
Wow, it's interesting. One of my good friends just did the Landmark Farm this weekend, and one of the things in a short conversation we had during this was she was also kind of pretending to be someone that she wasn't. And one of the best life lessons, I went to Italy to do this course, and we did this whole thing about it was called Transforming Yesterday's Strategies, actually around relationships, how you relate to men, how you relate to women, how you relate to gay men, how you relate to gay women, like all these different things. But at the end of it, the underlying thing that we all found out about each other is that there's one thing that when we interact with people, we just go, oh God, if they only found this out, they'd run the other way.
Yep.
And it's the thing that we just run through life with a mask on to try to avoid that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think an intimate relationship, more than any other relationship in the world, has you confront that. If it's a true intimate relationship. I mean, like you said, you can fake it for years and people get married with that fakeness. But if you truly let someone in, you have to let them know that deepest, darkest thing that you fear the most that people are going to find out. The irony of the whole thing, and this is what we were taught, is that when you actually share that with people, that's actually what attracts people to you, not pushes them away from you. Because that vulnerability of actually letting people see the real you unmasked to other people, even though they're not willing to do it, is so insanely courageous that they just look at you like you're an alien with just pure appreciation and love and adornment. So it almost sounds like she took you right to that door. She opened the door. You got a peek and you went, oh, fuck me. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Yeah. And I sprinted around the block a few times and I came back as like, okay, you know what? That door is probably the greatest thing that could ever possibly happen to me personally, emotionally, to my business, to every area of my life. And, thank you for opening the door and keeping it open. And I will be peeing myself while I do it, but I'm going to step through the door and let myself be seen. And exactly what you said, like that is the voice of shame, that feeling of if they really knew this thing about me, and usually the thing we have the most fear about are, not just the things that attract people to us and connect people to us, but they're like our core gifts. Like for me, it's that feeling of if she really knew how sensitive I was, if she really knew how emotional or creative or the things that have had the most shame piled onto, and not from a victim mindset of like, oh, like people put it on me. Like I took those lessons from my life experiences, but it's always those things. Dr. Robert Glover has this quote: "Humans are attracted to each other's rough edges." It's exactly that. It's all the things behind the armor, all things behind the mask. That's what people that are doing their own work and are also looking at themselves with, the magnifying glass and clear honesty. When we're really showing up and doing our work and being our true selves, we attract those people that are like, yes, another one of me. Whereas when you're shut off and, willfully hiding behind that stuff, you'll also attract, friends, colleagues, business partners, and intimate partners that will happily mirror that back to you and are also just as hidden.
Yeah.
So you can only ever attract the degree of the people that are doing their work to the degree that you are yourself.
Yeah. Well, the beauty is that she'll walk through that door with you now.
Yeah. And it's that, again, that elastic band theory of like, we're very taking steps, and we both have that, every day at this point, where when one of us says, okay, and here's another thing behind my armor, the other one's like, I love it. That's amazing. And just, again, taking the dark and shining a flashlight on it and really letting it be seen and loved. I think there's this really sexy idea, especially in American culture, North American culture, Western society, that there's this kind of overly individualistic, be all that you can be mindset of, you have to be an 100% flawless, high-performing person before you can attract anyone that's healthy for you.
Yeah.
And it's such bullshit. And I get it. It's sexy. It's another way of hiding of, when you're single, say you do, like myself and maybe like a lot of people, you spend your early 20s dating around with people that don't really have the capacity to see you because you're not letting them. And, you date safe, so you're not really seen. There's this precipice where you go, okay, I think, I have to like wipe the slate clean, and like, I'm just going to be single and date myself for 3 years and get really good in myself, which is a pretty awesome and healthy intention or mindset to come from. It's super empowered. But when we're single, we only see what we let ourselves see, what we want to see. There's no mirror. There's nothing saying, okay, that's amazing. I'm really glad that you're getting in shape and you're running your business. You're doing these things that have a high degree of control. But how about these things that you're not facing?
Yeah.
And no one's holding up that mirror when we're, intentionally single for a lot of years. It can become a crutch. And so, like we alluded to earlier, when you meet someone that's also on that journey with you, you each take those baby steps together and shine the light in the darkness and go, I have these things too, and I get it, and can empathize and love the darkness into the light.
Yeah, it's interesting. I went with my dad skiing on Friday. We were just talking about relationships and kids and all this stuff. And one of the things we spoke about was, I said, people fantasize love, and they confuse what culture and movies and all that shit tell you is love as lust.
Totally.
And I told him that what's interesting, I've been now married for 6 years, and I can tell you, we got married pretty fast. So after 4.5 months, we were engaged. A year and a half later, we were already married. So we had already been acting married since 2 weeks in, which I know is kind of similar to where you guys were at.
Yeah.
But I told him that a lot of people that I know, when they're doing this whole working on a relationship thing, now being married, and granted, I'm only married for 6 years, so I'm take this all with a grain of salt, right? I'm not some 70-year-old woman, 70-year-old guy who's been married for 50 years. But I said, love is what happens once you get married, and then truly over the years, you develop love. Mm-hmm. Indians, I think, back in the day at least, marry people. And I never really understood how you do arranged marriages. And someone once said this thing to me, which I just remembered as I said that line, which is, when you put a pot of water on the fire and you light it, it doesn't boil. It takes time to get that up to boil. Mm-hmm. And I think love is very similar. The things that you're going through now that I'm listening to as having gone through a bit of a process, it doesn't really change. My wife and I had a massive kind of blow up this weekend because I said one thing and that sent her on this. And then in the car, we're realizing that kind of like you noticed, it's this conversation that has been there for a few months now that hasn't really been discussed. And it was that cork.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's calling some of the things that I'm doing into question. So I'm being confronted, right? And it's, like you said, it's that rubber band thing, which I really like. It never ends.
And nor do we want it to.
Exactly. And I think if that's the game, that's what I was trying to explain to her, and I'm curious what your take on it is. Obviously, when you go into a relationship, people are going to like different things or pursue different things. You don't have to be the same person going down the same path. Mm-hmm. Having said that, though, what I find to be the most critical is your mission statement, your relationship mission statement / vision, whatever it is, kind of like we create in business, to have that. And as long as the main focus of what you guys are working on is still there, mm-hmm. then everything that happens in and around that is just to pursue that goal, that mission. Mm-hmm. So back to Frank and Claire in House of Cards, their whole goal is just political world domination. That's their whole thing. And everything that happens, even if it's one sleeping with some other one or cheating, it doesn't matter to them.
Because it serves their highest goal.
Is that what you need right now to get us here? Yes, good. Now I'm not saying guys, you go do that. But inside of that, I feel like there's a lot of potential for conversations that will challenge you along the way because of that ultimate goal.
Definitely.
So, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but that's what I heard.
I love the pot of water and the fire thing. That's, I think that for a lot of people that maybe haven't had, people who are listening that haven't had the same experience with, meeting someone that really, whoa, like this could be my person. I think there's a very similar feeling with, certain friends we meet in our lifetime that you can have a very strong pull to people in meeting them right off the bat. Like our mutual friend, Brent, and you are actually like definitely the top of my list of those kinds of people that, I met you in New York over that dinner, and within, 4 minutes of just like being in a room with you, I was like, I'm going to like that guy a lot. It's a very apparent feeling, but that doesn't mean that we have any shared experiences to give our relationship legs. And it's the exact same thing, in friendships and into relationships. You might have an overwhelming initial spark, and that's fantastic. And, milk that, dive into it, and really use it. But when that honeymoon phase, shifts into, okay, like let's get into the work of building a relationship. Like that's almost day one of your relationship is, okay, now like the huge chemical rush that our mammalian brain gives us to chemically bond with each other to give us incentive to, you should invest in this person that is a hormonal fit with you, that if you decide to have babies, they'll be healthy babies in the context of intimate relationships. Then that's when you go, okay, now how do we love on purpose? Now how do we have these difficult conversations? How do we choose to grow together and not just, expect or assume that chemical high is going to carry you for any real length of time, because that's when the work starts. Okay, now let's build a real relationship. Let's keep the heat on that kettle and keep it boiling.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. That line that you just said, where once that chemical, and I don't think people are aware that it is a chemical reaction at the beginning. Hey guys, I just want to take a quick break here and let you know about our 10-day challenge. All you have to do is head over to SatoriPrime.com/10day, the number 10 day. And in it, we give you a 10-part video series that is absolutely changing lives, and it's completely free. It's a mindset shift in what is possible for you in your life right now. So I just want to read to you what someone has just written me. And they said, what did the 10-day challenge create for me? In summary, a plan of action. A man with a goal and a plan is unstoppable. Your 10-day challenge allowed me to take all that confusion and fear of my situation and see it was a period of transition. I have a plan. I've taken action and I'm implementing. Success is just over the horizon. And that could be the case for you. So head over to SatoriPrime.com/10day, the number 10 day, and grab your 10 free videos today and create a plan of success for you. Now back to the episode. I think they just buy into this Hollywood bullshit love story. And then when that fades, that's when people get divorced. Because they go, I don't have that feeling anymore. Yeah. And I'm like, that's when it starts. That's when the whole
now you're in a relationship.
Now you're in a relationship. Congratulations. Oh, so crazy. So what did someone told me? 64% divorce rate right now in this country.
Really?
In the US. 64%. Astounding. I mean, to me, and this is kind of how we started this, communication, to me, someone says to me, what define love? To me, it's communication. Because your physical is going away. The things you like today, you're not going to like tomorrow. The person you are today, maybe at a core, obviously we all have, like you said, core gifts, etc. But even that is going to alter. So the only way that I can see people actually staying together and choosing day over day to stay together is they have the ability to communicate. And, you know, I really like this rubber band thing is you communicate and that allows you to kind of pull the other person towards you. They jump ahead, they can, and so on and so forth. I just don't see how there's any other way that you can stay in a relationship.
I think a really easy comparison for a lot of people that are listening to this is the overarching or like the overlapping analogy of how business and relationships work. And I think that there is this kind of sexy idea that, you know, oh, when we build our business to a certain level, we've been married for X number of years, then it'll be autopilot.
Yeah.
Then we'll have arrived and it'll be easy and nice and we'll be an old couple that never bickers, or, you know, our stock prices will just go skyrocketing and just be totally autopilot. And in both, I get it. It's sexy to go like, oh, we'll be able to just like kick back on the beach and do nothing. But, you know, no matter how well established a brand is or a relationship is, there is constant, you know, market research and renegotiating and, okay, what's the new product? What's the thing to keep it fresh, interesting, to stay on people's minds? And, you know, some entrepreneurs put so many hours and so much intentionality into their business. And then they come to me and they go, you know, something's wrong. I've been married to my wife for like 4 or 5 years. And like, you know, that's not that long at all. But, you know, the spark isn't there anymore. And I'm like, okay, when's the last time you went on a date? And they're like, well, like, you know, we're married. So yeah, we don't. And I'm like, what are you talking about? One of my favorite, aka least favorite things is when, you know, I've recommended my book, 50 Powerful Date Ideas, to these clients. Okay, like read this book, scan it, maybe a couple of these things will jump out to you. And I've had several, honestly, male clients that have made this joke about like, oh, I think my wife would be pretty upset with me if she saw me having a book about like date ideas. And like, as in saying that dating is only for like people that are pre-married. I'm like, oh, you don't get it. Like, this is the point.
Meanwhile, think about how many books they're reading to help their business grow and educate themselves on whatever it is that they're doing. But dating, nope.
They're listening to Audible on 3 times speed, consuming Seth Godin, and I say, oh, like read an article about being intentional in your relationship, and like, you know, we're already married. It should just be a thing. And, you know, that's like if Apple was like, oh, we don't need to have meetings. We're already Apple. Like, no, they still give a shit.
Yeah,
they're
I love
putting
that.
in work all the time.
We're still Apple. So let's go back to you real quick. You go through this process. You realize that the reality test failed. Anxiety's still there.
I messed up.
You messed up, which is second hardest thing I think in the book to do. Admit that.
It's
so
up there,
especially to someone who you just left.
Yeah.
We started this and you said, what was the title of that article?
How to break up gracefully?
No, should you get back with your ex?
Should exes ever get back together?
Should exes ever get back together? And I'm sure a lot of people have varying opinions on said topic. What did you see? And you've obviously coached people on probably getting back together with their exes or not getting back together with their exes. What did you particularly see because I know this is something that a lot of people deal with. They fantasize about the person that they broke up with, and they imagine, oh, it was so good. And then they get back and it's terrible. You know, that good thing lasts for about 2 months and then it's terrible again.
Yep.
And for some people, it really works. So what did you see and why do you think it's different than, or what should people look for, I should say, if they're going to go do that?
If they're going to get back together?
If they're going to get back together, yeah.
I think if you take stock of who you really are when you're with them, like, am I a version of myself that I very admire and look up to and respect when I'm with them? You know, when I pull out a piece of paper and I write the things that, you know, where I fell short in the relationship, or where I, you know, perceive that I think that they weren't pulling their weight, or, you know, the things that you say, like, oh, these are the things I didn't like. And if they're really, you know, petty or invented or just excuses that you're willfully hiding behind, I think there's a fairly obvious gut check time of, am I just running away from this for the sake of running away? Or is this one of the best things that's ever happened to me? So yes, by the numbers, I would say that the majority of relationships that break up probably shouldn't get back together.
Yeah.
At least, you know, in most intentional social circles of certain level of awareness around themselves and relationships. But, or another litmus test that my girlfriend said recently that was for her, she's like, she Googled like how to get over your ex, and my article came up as like one of like the number one matches. And she was like even when we weren't talking, we were together, like your wisdom is still showing up in my life. And she did the exercises that were laid out in the article, and a few of them are, you know, what did you learn from the relationship? What did you gain from it? Where did they fall short, or what would you have changed about their behavior? And where did you fall short, and what would you have changed about your behavior in the relationship? And she said during the, you know, what would you want different, or what would you want to change your future relationship? She said even when she was journaling and writing down stuff past things that she already knew I was, she's like, the further she went into the list, she's like, this is still just him. Like, I don't want anything different. And it was that exact way for both of us, that I was like, there is nothing I wanted to change about her. I just messed up.
Wow. That's bold. Bold. Yeah. That's brilliant, man. It's so funny. The last time we got on, you guys were in the just firing it up.
Early.
Yep. And now,
chemical high.
Yeah, but now it's rubber meets the road time.
Now it's real.
No
more, you know, it's a secretary phase when you first come into the office and everything's clean and well presented, and now the masks are coming off. And again, that's scary for both of us, but it is that real phase of, no, like, now I can actually connect you emotionally from a deep and real place of, that's the part of you that I want to see. Yeah,
it never stops. I'm telling you right now. Just quick little story. When I don't remember how old I was, but regardless, my business had tanked. The previous finance company had tanked. Mm-hmm. And I made a decision as the protector and person that, from an economic standpoint, you know, ran this family. I had no money. And so it was either put food on our table or pay my mortgage. And I chose to put food on our table. So I stopped paying the mortgage. Didn't tell my wife. Didn't tell my wife that I could, because in my world, I just thought, I just need a little bit of time. I'm going to figure this out and I'll handle it. I'll just handle it. And eventually a few months go by and I just realized that I can't handle this. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get us out of this mess. Now, in the meantime, it's been 3-4 months where I haven't paid our mortgage and I haven't told my wife that I've put us in this fucking shit show of a boat. Mm-hmm. And now I have to tell her that not only did I do this, but I haven't told her that I've been doing this for the last 4 months. And I just remember having convulsions inside of every time I wanted to say something to her. It just so nervous. So I thought she was going to leave me.
Totally. It's terrifying.
And eventually what I came to, which was really interesting, was when you're in partnership with someone, you sign up for partnership, good and bad. The way I'd live my life is I handled everything on my own. I'm just one of these guys. I make shit happen. And the only way for us, so now we'd been married for 2-3 years at this point, but the only way that I could truly be in partnership with her was the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, had to send me a problem big enough where there was no freaking way that I was solving it on my own.
You had to face it.
I had to go into partnership with the woman that I said I'm partnered with to help me solve this problem. I wasn't doing it solo. Mm-hmm. Once I realized that, I remember going, wow, you ask for what you want, but you get what you need.
Yeah.
I just went, holy shit. This is it. This is that moment, right? Now I'm either going to choose partnership and we're going to go through this mess together, or I'm going to go through and I will fix the day and da-da-da. And I remember having that conversation with her, and it was one of the most painful conversations because I couldn't believe that I'd done it. But what a lesson. Never lie to her, never hide from her, always do things together. You need these moments in life to teach you where you need to be going. And so first of all, I just want to acknowledge you and thank you for coming on this podcast and sharing probably one of the most vulnerable experiences of your entire life.
Very challenging lesson, definitely.
I mean, truly, truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I asked Jordan if you'd be willing to, just to share the experience with others so that they can get some sort of insight in wherever they are in their lives without batting an eye. You just went, yeah, I would do that. And I know that it's not an easy thing to talk about or share. So truly thank you. And 2, I feel blessed that you have eyes to see what you saw. And that wherever it goes, and who knows where that goes, you have already walked through that door. The door that you were so terrified to walk through. Now just hand in hand and step by step.
Big journey.
Yeah, man. It never ends.
And
that's what we signed up for.
Yeah. Yeah, those are lessons. I feel like the universe just makes us, slam our forehead into the same brick wall until we go, oh, that's a brick wall. Yeah. I'm going to go right instead of into the wall.
Yeah.
You learn from it, you go over it. And yeah, like I was saying earlier with the individuality thing that our culture really pushes, I think that we can get to about, maybe a 70% ceiling of awareness in and of ourselves, but it takes our partner. It takes, yes, I feel really grateful that I had the awareness to do it and the courage to act on it. But a huge part of that I would not have been able to reach 100, without is having an insanely strong-minded partner that had the devotion and character to see through my hissy fit and be like, no, I still know who you actually are. And even if you've lost sight of it right now, I see you and we're going to get back to being us. And mind blown.
Yeah. Well, there's not that many people that can do that.
No. And the way that you meet and attract those people is by, again, hitting your personal ceiling of being as close to that kind of person as possible and being there for them in those moments where they're struggling.
So good. So good, Jordan. Well, now you have a whole slew of new things to probably write about and teach and, right? It's like lesson learned.
My creative energy is flowing like crazy right now. And it had been stuck for a month. Like when I went non-communicative and showed up to the relationship, it dried up to nothing. I was just going off of like my queued up post that I'd already written previously. Yeah, it just dried up. And I was like, maybe that's a sign that I'm climbing up and closing down. And then as soon as I actually communicate and go through these lessons, now it's like, okay, it's moving again. I'm, back to myself or a better version of myself.
Beautiful. Is there a final thought you want to leave people with, having gone through this experience, something that you can share with them other than what you've already shared?
for me, the ultimate lesson in this whole recent journey has just been that, not absolutely everyone in your life is going to deserve your vulnerable and real self. But when you meet those people, those select few, that handful of people that you might be in communication with at any given time in your life, to realize what you have and just cherish the shit out of those people and really, see and honor them for the gift that they are.
Yeah. Beautifully said. I think it's very tough for people, though, when you're challenged to see that.
Totally. So, yeah, when someone's holding up that mirror to you, and it takes, a ton of courage to even be willing to look in the mirror. Yeah. That's where most relationships break down, is usually the more feminine associated partner is like, hey, here's a mirror, you might want to face this. And the masculine's like, no, I'm not ready for that. And they'll shame the person that offered it. Is like, you're imagining things, you're crazy, you're just trying to manipulate me. And it's like, I can offer the lesson to you, I can't force you to learn from it or even hear it. So, and yeah, it definitely takes a lot of courage to go, yes, this is the thing that I need to face. And I've been running away from it for, a long time, and it's time. I'm ready to let go of that old version of myself.
Wow. Yeah. There's gold on the other side of it every time.
Every time.
Every time. I know the scariest things to walk through, if you could just reprogram that on the other side of giving that up is just absolute golden magic, it makes it easier, at least theoretically.
Maybe not in practice. One of my favorite quotes of all time by Ray Bradbury is, leap and the net, is it two different people? Leap and the net will appear, or jump off the cliff and build your wings on the way down. Yeah.
I don't know who said that, jump off the cliff
and build your wings on the way down. I think that one's Ray Bradbury.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've believed that for ages. That's one of the things. I never knew that was a quote by somebody. I just said, leap off a cliff and figure out how to fly on the way down. But I guess someone smarter than me came up with a sexier quote.
Decades ago.
As is usually the case. Jordan, seriously, thank you very much. And for those that want to follow Jordan's journey now, Jordan 2.0, where can they get a hold of you?
The main hub is my personal website, jordangrayconsulting.com, JORDANGRAY consulting.com. You can find books, video courses. You can coach with me directly. And there's also, I've got a bunch of books on Amazon as well. But jordangrayconsulting.com, that's the main hub.
And now you have a podcast?
Not yet. I have my Yeti. I've got the microphone. I'm building up the library.
Got it. Stay tuned. Okay, cool. So yeah, guys, I actually know people personally that have come through our SatoriPrime family and actually hired Jordan as a consultant in their relationship, and they thank him to no end. So if there's anything that you guys are dealing with or want to find out how he can help you, absolutely reach out. This man is a master inside of relationships. Again, my friend, thank you so much, truly, for coming out here and pouring your heart into this one.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Love you, man.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Performance Enhancing Podcast. We've taken this pep talk and created a custom action guide so you know exactly what action steps to take now to grow your business. Just head over to SatoriPrime.com/podcast and download it for free. Also, please leave a comment and rate this podcast on iTunes. It'll help us get the word out. Thanks for listening. Now, go and implement. We'll see you next time.
Did you run through doors till you hit the floor? Did you read my eyes and my aching thoughts? Did you walk through walls till you had to grow?